Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Something strange is happening in our world today. Floods have swallowed entire towns in Brazil, and children in Gaza sleep under skies they're told to fear. In Ukraine and Sudan, war echoes through streets where laughter used to live. We scroll past headlines of horror with numb fingers and heavy hearts. Something in us is breaking, and we don't even pause to ask why. We're living in a time of paradox, hyper-connected, yet deeply alone. Progress surrounds us, but purpose seems far. Every day feels urgent but hollow. And so, here's the question we've forgotten to ask. What does it truly mean to be tested? And how do we respond when everything familiar begins to fall apart? Because maybe the pain isn't punishment. Maybe it's a message. The Qur'an tells us, "And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger, and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits. But give good tidings to the patient." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:155. These aren't just ancient words, they're echoes of the present. Humanity has always walked through fire, but some found light in it. This video is not about despair. It's about rediscovery of who we are and who we're meant to be. Before we go deeper, type one word in the comments. What scares you the most about the world today? Before starting this video, don't forget to like this video, because it gives us a lot of strength to continue sharing beneficial content. And I invite you to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell to stay informed of our next publications on the Islamic faith. Share it with your loved ones and leave a comment to tell me what you think. Thank you, and good video. Define the problem. We live in a time when everything is faster, smarter, and more advanced, and yet we've never felt more lost. Despite having the world at our fingertips, many of us wake up with a dull ache we can't name. It's not just stress or fatigue, it's emptiness. A quiet kind of sorrow that no notification can fix. We binge content but starve for meaning. We drown in endless options yet feel stuck. Why? Because we've confused stimulation with connection. We chase dopamine hits but neglect the soul. We've built a digital world that responds instantly to our desires, but ignores our deeper needs. In 2024, Japan reported a record number of young people choosing to withdraw completely from society. Hikikomori. Thousands spend months or even years in total isolation, not due to illness, but exhaustion from pretending to belong in a world that doesn't see them. And in 2025, the World Health Organization raised a chilling warning: AI-induced loneliness. As artificial intelligence begins mimicking human emotion, people are forming relationships with chatbots, not because they're fooled, but because it's safer than being hurt by real humans. But what if we're not just lonely? What if we're spiritually displaced? And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. Surah Ad-Dariyat 51:56. We weren't created to endlessly consume. We were designed to connect deeply, to worship, to feel, to carry meaning in our days and in our pain. The more we neglect the purpose we were made for, the louder the silence becomes. The Qur'an reminds us, when we forget the one who created us, we begin to forget ourselves. And today, in the noise of the modern world, millions are forgetting, replacing reflection with reaction, replacing soul with simulation. But it's not too late. Pause for a second. Breathe. What distracts you from what really matters in life? Drop it in the comments. Let's expose it, and then reclaim our focus. Human storytelling, personal story, a digital ghost. I remember one night, maybe 2 years ago. I was lying in bed, phone screen glowing against my face, endlessly scrolling through stories, reels, tweets, whatever would keep the silence at bay. Each post I saw made me feel smaller,
like I was falling behind in a race I didn't sign up for. Everyone seemed to be achieving something. Everyone seemed happy. Perfect skin, perfect lives, perfect answers. And me, I was alone. Not physically, my family was downstairs, but emotionally, spiritually, I was a ghost inside my own life. Hours slipped by like smoke. I wasn't living. I was distracting myself from living. I had traded the warmth of real presence for the cold comfort of a screen. That night, I didn't just lose sleep. I lost a part of myself. Not because I did something wrong, but because I did nothing real. And I realized, when you ignore your soul long enough, it stops whispering, and then you forget how to listen. Global story, Lena from Gaza. In Gaza today, there is a 16-year-old girl named Lena. She lives in a city where the night sky isn't peaceful. It's a source of dread. Her home, once filled with laughter, is now broken concrete and dust. But somehow, Lena writes poems. She writes them in the back of her worn school notebook, between sirens and silence, between fear and faith. One of her poems went viral last month. It read, "They say we have no future, but I carry it in my hands when I feed my baby brother, when I teach my neighbor's son how to write his name, when I hide my tears so my mother can sleep in peace." When asked why she writes, she said, "Because my breath is proof of my resistance. And as long as I'm breathing, I will not stop creating." Lena doesn't have a stable internet connection. She doesn't have safety or even shoes that fully fit. But she has something we've forgotten: meaning carved from pain. Her suffering isn't sanitized or solved, but it's seen, and it's given voice. She reminds us that even in darkness, you can light a candle with your words. Quranic story, Prophet Yunus, peace be upon him. And then there is the timeless story of a man who ran, not because he didn't believe, but because he was overwhelmed. Prophet Yunus, peace be upon him, was given a mission, to call his people to truth. But they rejected him, and he felt like a failure. So he left, not in rebellion, but in exhaustion. And then, in the depths of a storm-tossed sea, he was swallowed by a whale. Darkness upon darkness, in the ocean, in the belly, in his soul. It was there, in that living grave, that he remembered the only light that ever mattered. He didn't ask for a way out. He didn't argue or justify. He just surrendered. La ilaha illa anta, subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. There is no God but you. Glory be to you. I was among the wrongdoers. Surah Al-Anbiya 21:87. That prayer wasn't just about forgiveness. It was about awakening, recognizing that even prophets can feel despair, but the path back to light is never closed. Yunus was returned to land, changed, refined, reborn. His story isn't just history, it's a blueprint, because many of us are in our own whales right now. Maybe it's depression, maybe addiction, maybe numbness. And just like him, the way out is not around the pain, it's through it, with God. Have you ever had a whale moment? A time you felt completely trapped, emotionally, spiritually, or even physically, and didn't know if you'd ever come out of it? Share yours in the comments, or just type one word that describes that moment. Let's build a space where honesty is healing. Because the moment you name your darkness is the moment you begin to reclaim your light. Deep analysis of the subject. Theme: modern disconnection and the crisis of the forgotten soul. We often think the crisis we're facing is external: broken economies, war, climate collapse, political chaos. But beneath the headlines, there's something deeper unraveling, quietly, invisibly. We're forgetting who we are, not just as individuals, but as human souls. We are living in an age of profound spiritual amnesia. And be not like those who forgot Allah, so He made them forget themselves. Surah Al-Hashr, 59:19. The Qur'an doesn't just warn about forgetting God. It links that forgetfulness to a loss of self. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. Psychological breakdown, identity and belonging. Ask someone who they are, really. Most of us answer with what we do, not who we are. Psychologists are reporting a sharp rise in what they call self-alienation. People feel like strangers in their own minds. They don't trust their thoughts. They curate their emotions. They perform instead of live. We're raised to be somebody, but rarely taught how to be whole. This identity confusion is amplified by digital life. A 2025 study by Stanford found that teenagers today manage up to 5 different personas online. One for school friends, one for family, one for gaming, one for social media, and one private, hidden even from themselves. The result? No anchor, no identity, no self. We've learned to mimic presence while being spiritually absent. Sociological breakdown, a culture that rewards inauthenticity. We live in a culture that rewards surface. Vulnerability, weakness, slowness, laziness, stillness, a threat to productivity. So we smile on Instagram while silently breaking. We post our healing journey because healing isn't respected unless it's marketable. In 2025, we saw a digital trend emerge, the afterlife upload. Wealthy elites are now investing in tech that preserves consciousness, feeding their thoughts, memories, and personality into AI systems in the hope of living forever as digital versions of themselves. It sounds futuristic, but it reveals something ancient. The desperate human attempt to matter beyond death without turning to God. At the same time, another trend is gaining traction among Gen Z and millennials. Quiet quitting social media. People logging off, deleting apps, walking away, not because they don't care, but because they care too much about their sanity. In this paradox, we see the tension. One part of society desperately clings to the illusion of permanence. Another part is begging to feel real again. Spiritual breakdown. The illusion of self-sufficiency. Modern life feeds the illusion that we are self-made, self-fulfilled, self-sufficient. But the human soul wasn't designed for isolation. It was created for submission, not in weakness, but in alignment. When we forget God, we don't become more free. We become more fragile. We become obsessed with control because we've lost trust. We micromanage outcomes because we no longer believe in divine timing. We fill our time with noise because silence starts to echo with guilt and longing. But Islam offers a different blueprint. Your worth is not based on followers, but on faith. Your success isn't measured by output, but by intention. Your identity isn't built, it's remembered. The Qur'an doesn't ask you to become something you're not. It asks you to return to what you already are. A soul created with purpose, meant to walk in both struggle and serenity, with Allah as your compass. This is the root of the modern crisis. We've mistaken convenience for peace. But real peace, sakinah, only comes from the one who created it. Consequences of forgetting. When we forget who we are, we open the door to everything else. Mental illness becomes chronic because there's no deeper meaning. Relationships fracture because we don't even know how to be with ourselves. Entire generations wander through life feeling empty with everything they asked for. And that's the danger. Not that we're in pain, but that we feel nothing at all. That is the ultimate loss. A soul that no longer aches, because it no longer believes it's worthy of healing. If you had just 1 hour left in this world, what would you do? And who would you call? Drop that name in the comments. Tell them they matter while there's still time. Because deep down, we all want the same thing. To be seen, to be remembered, and to return, not just to people, but to ourselves. Turning point and solution theme, returning to the heart. From disconnection to divine clarity. There comes a moment, after the noise, after the numbness, where you whisper to yourself, "This can't be all there is." That whisper is not weakness, it's awakening, a crack in the armor, and that's where the light gets in. The truth is, we weren't made to carry this world alone. We were made to carry it with God, from control to tawakkul, the power of surrender. We spend our lives trying to control outcomes. We stress over jobs, relationships, success, and survival, as if it's all on us. But faith doesn't mean being passive. It means knowing when to act and when to let go. That's the essence of tawakkul, trusting the one who sees the whole picture when we only see a pixel. Let go of the need to know how everything will end. Focus instead on who you are becoming along the way. Rediscovering presence, the medicine of prayer. Prayer isn't a task, it's a return. It's 5 chances a day to remember who you are and who you belong to. It's a moment where your soul can breathe without the weight of the world pressing down. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Surah Ar-Ra'd 13:28, not stimulation, not scrolling, remembrance. It's in sujud, the lowest physical point, that we find the highest spiritual peace. Real-world light, Jordan's tent of light. In a refugee camp in Jordan, surrounded by dust and displacement, a small miracle is unfolding. There's a tent, no electricity, no Wi-Fi, where a group of children gathers every evening. They sit in a circle with one flashlight and a copy of the Qur'an. They take turns reading aloud, stumbling over words, helping each other sound them out. Some are orphans. Some have never been to school. But in that circle, they are students of the divine. A volunteer shared this moment. One of the boys, maybe 10 years old, said, "When I read Qur'an, I don't feel like a refugee anymore. I feel like Allah is close." In a world obsessed with pixels and filters, the truest light came from hearts that remembered him, in a tent of dust. Replace consumption with reflection. You don't need a desert to find clarity. You need space, you need quiet, and then you need courage to ask yourself what matters and what doesn't. Start with small acts. 10 minutes of silence before bed. Write down one thing you're grateful for each morning. Set an alarm for one extra sujud in your day, even outside of prayer. Talk to someone you love without your phone in your hand. These aren't trends. They're timeless. The path back to yourself is not paved with noise, but with stillness. Here's a challenge. Turn everything off. No music, no scrolling, no distractions. Just 10 minutes of silence. You, your breath, your thoughts. Then come back and comment, what came up? What did you feel? Sometimes, the first step back to God is the first time we sit alone and listen. Closing message and emotional call theme, you were born in meaning, return to it. The world will not wait for you. The deadlines will keep coming. The scroll will never end. The pressure to be everything, everywhere, for everyone, it doesn't stop. But you can. You can stop. You can pause. You can remember. Because you are not an algorithm. You are not your productivity. You are not your likes, your past, or even your mistakes. You are a soul, designed with care, created in love, and sent here for more than survival. You were born in meaning, so return to it. In a time when humanity is forgetting itself, the most radical thing you can do is remember. Remember your heart wasn't made for distraction. Remember your mind wasn't made to carry every fear alone. Remember your purpose isn't to perform, it's to be real, to be present, to be in remembrance. And we have certainly honored the children of Adam. Surah Al-Isra 1770.
You were honored before you achieved anything. You were loved before you were known. And that hasn't changed, no matter how far you've drifted. So this is your invitation, to return, not to a religion of rules, but to a relationship of remembrance, to reconnect with the one who sees you fully, to reclaim a life that's not about perfection, but presence. Even if you've been numb, even if you've been silent, even if you've been distant, you are not disqualified. You are not too late. You are not alone. There is a God who hears you, a purpose that still pulses inside you, a story that is still being written by hands far greater than yours. So breathe, reflect, begin again. What's one thing you're ready to do differently after watching this? A habit, a thought, a prayer, a phone call, a moment of stillness. Speak it into existence. Let this space be more than comments. Let it be community. Because when one person returns to their truth, it lights the way for others. If this video was helpful to you, please share it with your loved ones and leave a comment to tell me what you learned. Your support helps a lot to spread the message and grow this community. Barakallahu fikum.